people. Why don't you bring audience in?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then you see signal, and then I'll start. And we should be prepared to do this without them. If there's some emergency there, they're not able to join us. It's fine.
I think we should start.
Okay, we're starting. It's already 6:08, so we're already late. 8 minutes. But only thing is this, that Rishi, what you want to do is this, that in absence of Shrikant, you will have to introduce the speakers. Both Sarthak Saab and Subbu Saab. Would you be able to do that, Rishi?
Sounds good. I can take it over once you start. I believe that the audience
Okay,
are
okay, fine.
joining in.
Okay.
In fact, I would also say that we are probably best placed to introduce ourselves. So maybe we can do that. But after you, Kirtiji, we'll wait.
Yeah, I think that's what I think. I'll do the introductory part. Then I think it'll be better. So Chitrakshi, I think we don't have an emergency. Just tell us when to start. We'll start.
I think she's going live. So and we have
fine. I think they know what it is their webinar. They know it's webinar.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's done.
It's done, sir. It's done. I think. Chitrakshi, we can start.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Just wait 1 minute. It is going live.
It is now streaming live on YouTube itself. We have got the message.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, Kirti, so we can start.
Can we start now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just a minute. Okay. Friends and colleagues, Bayo Beno, colleagues, it's my very special privilege and honor to present to you today 108th episode of the webinar series on Rethinking City that INHAF is conducting for the past 3 years. As you may know, under this series, we have covered a good number of urban themes, sub-themes, and topics, and had the privilege of hearing ideas, views, and perspectives of over 500 urban experts, professionals, specialists, and community groups from across the world. It's a marvel of the technology that it facilitates people across the globe to interact and share as if they are sitting across a table and talking. This medium and technology is, in a manner of speaking, gift of the corona pandemic. It was there long before that. However, not as known and not in use here as it is now. At least we at INHAF discovered its virtues during the pandemic. And this highly necessary, useful, and enriching interaction is going on for so long, almost on a no-cost basis. And I really want to repeat this, that this entire series we are running costs us very little. And the technology and the Zoom instrument that we've been using from the very beginning is so good that in over 230 hours of conversation that we have had in the last 3 years, we had interruption of less than just 1 minute. That speaks how efficient, how good this technology is. Just less than a minute is all that we have wasted in last 3 years in conversation lasting over 230 hours. During the course of the webinar series, we have tried exploring multiple themes. And to do justice to them, we have often organized more than one webinar on a subject. We had 4 webinars on the theme of urban water, 4 on urban transport, 3 on heritage conservation and the Indian city, 4 on the work of environmental support group in Bangalore, and are now running a 10 event webinar series on the climate change and cities. 5 webinars on how Chennai city, which is threatened in multiple ways by the climate change, being a coastal city, is preparing to meet climate challenge, has already taken place. We already completed 5 webinars on Chennai and climate change. This new series we are doing with Bangalore Navnirman Party is rather different in content and character. BNP, that is Bangalore Navnirman Party, we are told is the only such political outfit in the country confined to just one city and confined to just one local body. We are grateful to BNP and its General Secretary, Sri Shikant Narsihan Saab, and its many devoted workers for the opportunity to present the ground view of the working of the municipal system of Bangalore. It is one thing to talk about or take a macro view of an urban issue like water or finance or even governance, but different taking a micro view in a specific context. As we all know, the devil is in the detail, and this series with Bangalore Navnirman Party is providing the special opportunity to learn the nitty-gritty of working of a city. It gives us a bottom-up perspective on how things work at the lowest level. Today's webinar is to focus on ward level finance, and is second in the series we started 2 weeks ago, and this is the second one. And we look forward to 4 more webinars to understand how a municipal administration, the people level government of a city, function in view of enormous challenges of growth, of development, of environmental deterioration, resource constraints, new threats such as global warming and climate change, rapid erosion of natural resources, rising expectation of the citizens in the age of information technology and communications revolution, and fast changing value systems in the public life and declining standards in political discourse and political action. We are hoping a great deal from Bangalore Navnirman Party in the context of all these major changes I listed. We are looking forward to BNP for a new vision and a new narrative in running a city and managing its development. So with this introductory words, I hand this over to the moderator, Shri Raghavan. Raghavanji, please take over and run this. Have others join, Soumya ji and Shikant ji?
Soumya just called me, sir. So she said she'll just join.
Okay, then let's start. Raghavan sir, why don't you start?
Yeah.
Raghavan ji, why don't you start?
Thank you, Kirti ji, for such a lovely.
Vishnu bhai.
Hello.
Vishnu, hi.
Oh.
Hello. Hi.
Okay.
Kirti ji, as I was saying, thank you so much for such a lovely introduction and context setting. My name is Rishvanjas Raghavan, or Rishi, as I'm known. I'm happy to do this discussion, to chip in with my views, moderate. As everyone knows, today we are here to discuss the theme of municipal finance. And while the introductions will be shared on the group, what I would invite all my fellow panelists today to do is just start off with a very brief introduction, not about yourself, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and what you currently do, but more from the point of view of your relationship with municipal finance. I think that'll be a very interesting thing for the audiences who are joining today, who will at some point watch this on YouTube, for them to get to know where we are coming from. And after that, they can listen to what we have to say on public finance. Of course, much has been said and written about public finance, but nowhere close to as much as we should be talking about it. So once again, I thank everybody involved with organizing this, and look forward to hearing ideas and discussing with Sarthak, Vishnu, Subbu sir over the next hour or so. I believe we also have an introductory presentation from Sarthak, so we will delve into that just after the first round of quick intro. So I'm happy, without further ado, to start with myself, set the tone, and then we'll go around, and then we'll hand it to Sarthak for his initial presentation on municipal finance. So I'm, as I said, Rishi. I currently work with a media group. I'm also a governing council member of BNP. My interest is in civic issues, local politics, local policy. I did my master's in public policy from National Law School in Bangalore, and my specialization through that was in municipal elections, or rather the irregularity in conduct of municipal elections across India. So this is a theme that I'm very passionate about, work very closely, and through that I interact with municipal finance. So that's about me. If we can go to Subbu sir first, and then Vishnu, and then we'll end with Sarthak so that he can continue with his presentation.
Thank you, Rishi. I'm Subbu Hegde. I'm a BNP Governing Council member. I retired from a corporate about 10 years ago, and then I've been running a non-profit for skill development. It's basically for the school and college dropouts to create sustainable livelihood for them through vocational training in courses or the skills which are in demand. It has 3 centers in Bangalore. It is still scaling up. In addition to that, I have been involved in the running of the RWA where I live in the last 12 years or so. As the governing council member, I was initially responsible for the treasury functions, but now I have handed over that responsibility to others in the GC council. So that's all about me.
Thank you so much, sir. Vishnu, a quick intro and your relationship with public finance.
Awesome. Hey, hello all. My name is Vishnu Reddy, and I'm a startup guy. I've been working with startups, building startups till now. Currently, I am the zonal president for a constituency called as Mahadevpura, for a political party called BNP, Bengaluru Navnirmana Party. What I do is I take care of about 3 wards in the constituency of Mahadevpura, where I build the party from the scratch. I go meet a lot more leaders. I'm on the ground, and of course, I speak to a lot of people, try and get the party's message across to a lot more people, and also to get a lot more people into the system. Try and ensure that that transition happens in a smooth and forward manner. So that's what I do, and the reason why I'm incredibly passionate about my city of Bangalore. This city has given me everything, and I'd like to give it back whatever I can in whatever ways I can do. So that's how, from a ward finance perspective, I'm also interested in contesting as a corporator candidate from one of the wards representing BNP. So obviously, I deal closely with officials, and I also talk to them in terms of what budgets are allocated, and how do we ensure that the right budget gets allocated to the right work. I'm also an activist myself. So I fight for potholes. I fight for drains getting cleared. I fight for garbage getting cleared and all of that stuff. So that's how I got involved into this. And we'll talk more about board level finance. But allocation of the right way of doing finance is what I'm passionate about, and looking forward to that conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishnu. Over to Sarthak. Please take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Vishnu. Thanks, Mr. Subbu. Thanks, Rishi. So I'm Sarthak. I'm an assistant professor with the Takshila Institution. Takshila is an independent center for research and education in public policy. At Takshila, I teach economics and I do some research on public finances. So I analyze mostly union budgets, state government budgets, sometimes BBMP budgets as well. And apart from that, I also am working on the public finance situation of the smaller states in India. By smaller, I'm again, there's no such universal definition of what is small. For convenience, those states which have a population less than 1 crore. So this is a project which is funded by International Center Goa. So I am working on that as well. So this is what is my relation with public finance. And yeah, I teach some modules of public finance with Takshila. So yeah, that's it from my end.
So Sarthak, I believe you also have a presentation which will give our viewers and folks on YouTube and who will watch this a rundown of public finance for someone who does not know it all and wants to get an introduction. So maybe we can start with that.
Yeah. So I'll just share my slides. Just give me a second.
I think it's of great value for those of us who are not, researching about it, even though we work on the ground, and for our viewers who may not be doing so much of that, but a great opportunity for us to look at it from an academic point of view and hear about your experience as, professor. So I look forward to what you have to share. And I think, the screen is visible.
Screen is visible, right? Yeah. So I want to talk about the fundamentals of municipal finance. That's what I have been told. So the idea is I'll give you a bird's eye view of how municipal finance typically looks like, and the focus will be on the revenue part. And I'll be talking about overall municipal finances like throughout the country, but the focus again, as you will notice, it will be more specific to BBMP. I will have more data related to BBMP. Now, the first part is going to be about some data, some numbers. The second part, we're going to talk about some broader issues, some broader principles, some broader challenges. So this is how I have divided it, and I'll take around 15-20 minutes to talk about it. So in fact, I thought I'll start with a quick question. And I mean, people, you can reply it, answer to this question on the chat. How many governments are there in India? Anyone has an answer to this? How many governments are there in India? So Rishi, people can respond on chat, right?
Yes, they can. I think there are a few comments coming in.
Yeah. So
You mean the levels, right?
No, I'm asking you how many governments are there? I'm not talking about levels.
Because people are replying levels.
Yeah. So I'm not asking you about levels of government, but it will be better if you could tell me the exact number or maybe some approximate number of governments that we have in India.
Okay, so we can say maybe around. No, not possible.
So you can give a ballpark number. You don't need to be like precise to the exact unit place. No.
If I had to hazard a guess, maybe 8,000, 10,000.
8,000. Okay. 8,000 is quite low, I guess. There is one answer by Shiv Shanmugan, 70,000. Anyone has
700 plus 800.
If we are considering panchayats, then it'll probably run into a few lakhs. Correct. They're also government. So I'm revising my guess.
Yes, 1.5 lakhs. We have 1.5 lakh villages. So okay.
Yeah. So now we are almost there. So we have around more than 2.6 lakh governments, right? If you combine all the levels that we have. So Panchayati Raj institutions, 2.6 lakhs, urban local bodies around 4,500. Then you have the union government, then you have the state governments, right? So we have multiple governments, and intentionally I pose this question because usually when we think of government, we think of the union government or the state government. But no, there are many other governments. And given that the first thing when you think of government, you don't think of urban local bodies or you don't think of PRIs, also shows how much attention or how much priority we put to these kind of bodies.
Yes.
Now, another reason why I pointed out this is the second question. Now, if you look at India's GDP of an economy, right? What are the different components? One is how much does the government spend? One is what is the private investment? What is the household consumption? And then how much you are exporting, importing, the net of that. Now, government's expenditure as a proportion of GDP, total, all the three levels, it is around 27 to 28%. Now, can someone tell me what percentage of India's GDP is spent by the municipal governments? What percentage of India's GDP is spent by the municipal governments, all the urban local bodies that you have, 4,500 odd? I mean, you can put it in the chat box. So total three levels of government, 27 to 28%. What will be the municipal government's spending in that? Any 10% or 5%, any ballpark number? What do you think? I mean, you don't need to be exact. What is the estimate?
Yeah, I would guess maybe 20%.
5%.
Maybe
5%.
5%, right? So 5% is municipal
There's also a
governments,
guess-
union and center, union and the states. You are saying 22%.
There's
Or
also guessing 1%. So
yeah, so there's one which is 15%. Just think of it. 27% is the total. 12% we are saying union and states, and municipalities 15%, right? So it's 15% might be too huge.
no, I was thinking 15% of their 12%. So maybe then
Okay,
about
okay,
5%. Yeah.
okay. No, so I think we have the right answer here. Lalithamba BV mentions 1%. That is what it is, 1%. In fact, it is not even 1%, it is less than that, somewhere around 0.8%. Right? So the point is you have 4,500 urban local bodies. These are the governments. But the total spending from here is just less than 1% of the GDP, which kind of tells you that they also don't have enough revenue sources. And again, look at the comparative numbers. Some other emerging economies, right? Brazil, it is 7%. South Africa, it is 6%. So, which indirectly tells you that urban local governments, municipal finances are very low as compared to other countries, which implies that the cities do not have enough resources, which in turn will imply that they will find it difficult to spend. In fact, in my entire presentation, I'm not going to talk about where the money is being spent by all these urban local bodies. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to focus on the sources of revenue. So these numbers were basically to give you a context. So many governments, but the share in the government expenditure, total expenditure, tends to be quite low. Now, the next automatic question, where do these urban local bodies get their revenue from? Now, it can be broadly divided into three sources, right? First is the union government. Second is the state government. And third is they generate their own revenue. Now, union government, what sort of revenue? How do they get it? So every 5 years, you have the finance commission. The finance commission again recommends that the government should the union government should give this much grants to the urban local bodies. So the urban local bodies get union finance commission grants. That's one part. Now again, whether there should be devolution of money from the union government to the urban local bodies, that's a different question. But usually in case of India, this is one source of revenue. The other is state governments, right? State governments also constitute the State Finance Commission, but whether they are formed regularly, all those things are again questionable. Many states have not formed state finance commissions quite consistently. But there also you have state finance commission grants, and there can be other grants as well. So state governments also give money to the urban local bodies. Third source of revenue, it is the urban local bodies own revenues. So they might tax certain kinds of economic activities. From that, they will generate revenue. Or they might also charge different kind of fees. They will provide some services, and in exchange of the services, they will collect some fees. So that those are all part of the non-tax revenue. Tax revenue examples are, there can be health cess, solid waste management cess. All these are part of tax revenue. Non-tax revenue can be, let's say, parking fees is an example of that. So various fees that are charged will fall under the non-tax revenue. So these are three different demarcations. Now, also another way to think of it, when the state government is providing finances to the urban local bodies, sometimes the finances that are provided can be tied, sometimes they can be untied. Tied means you have to spend on a particular thing. Untied means, again, you have the urban local bodies have the flexibility. They can decide, right, their own priority, accordingly spend. So again, urban local bodies would ideally prefer to have untied funds instead of tied funds. Now let's look at how these sources of revenue have contributed to urban local bodies over a period of time. Let's look at the trend. The first graph that you see, it is from the RBI's report on municipal finances, 2022 they had released. And again, they have data till 2017-18. And the blue one is the tax revenue that is generated by urban local bodies. The orange thing that you can see, it is the non-tax revenue that is generated by the urban local bodies. The gray portion that you see is basically the transfers from the union and the states. And then the other sources, borrowings and all can be there. Yellow part is that. So what is interesting to note is the tax revenue of urban local bodies overall, like if you total it, that has been declining. The blue thing has been declining, and the dependence on the
Grants.
union and the state government for the grants has been increasing, right? Which can be a cause of concern, because if you're dependent on someone, maybe long-term projects, capital expenditure, all these things can get impacted, right? You are in a vulnerable situation. So this is, again, pan-India level, not necessarily all. For instance, maybe this is not the trend with BBMP, but this is the overall how the picture looks like. Again, more or less similar kind of thing is pointed by the table on the right hand side. This is another report by, it was a report commissioned by the 15th Finance Commission. Ms. Isha Rahulewala was leading this particular panel. And here also you can observe that here the numbers are as a proportion to GDP. And you can see that municipal owned revenue is around 0.43% of total GDP. And a larger part of it is tax revenue. Union transfers is around 0.12%. State transfers is around 0.33%. And here also you can observe that dependence on union transfer, dependence on state transfers has been on the rise.
Have increased.
Yeah, have increased. This is as proportion of GDP. This is as a proportion of the total revenue receipts. So this is how it looks
You're
like.
not audible.
Yeah, I'm not audible.
Now
No.
you have come back.
Oh, yeah, I didn't change anything, so maybe
No,
some
no, we
location.
Fine for the rest of us. No
Yeah.
worries.
Okay, so this is how the overall trend in municipal revenue looks like. Now let's look at the BBMP's source of revenue. Where does BBMP get its money from? This is from the most recent budget, yesterday's budget, right? Yesterday, the BBMP budget was presented, so I spent some time looking at the numbers. Now, each budget has the estimates for the upcoming fiscal. They have the revised estimates for the last year fiscal, and they have the actual number for last to last year. So the budget that was presented yesterday has the actual account data for last to last year. That means 22-23. So this is the total revenue. Again, it is in lakhs of for BBMP. Somewhere around 10,000 crores will be its total revenue. And almost 50% of it is its own revenue, taxes, cesses, non-tax revenue. These are the sources from the government of Karnataka, grants from them. Some are revenue grants, some are capital grants. For again, different components are there within that. I have clubbed them together. And a very small part of it is from the 15th Finance Commission, the union grants, right? So this is how it looks like. But again, if you sum total it, then again 50% of BBMP's revenue is again coming from the state and the union government. 50% is its own revenue. But yeah, I mean, this is still better than most of the urban local bodies in the country. Now, what are the heads which generate a larger proportion of revenue for BBMP? So these are some heads. I have not included everything. I have only taken those heads which contributed significantly to BBMP's revenue. And you can observe that property tax income contributes the maximum. And then you have the other things, health cess or building regulation, license fees, and all those things. So property tax contributes maximum. And in fact, Pan India also, if you observe more or less similar kind of trends, property tax contributes a large part to the municipal revenues. But this does not mean that we have completely, I mean, there's no scope for improvement here. There is still massive scope of improvement. Given the current scenario, property tax contributes significantly to the BBMP's revenue resources. So these are the sources of revenue for BBMP. Now, I want to delve a bit deeper now. I want to talk about what are some of the broader principles, fiscal decentralization principles, and what are the challenges right now? Where do we not converge with these fiscal decentralization principles? Where do we deviate from this? And what can be things that can be taken up in the future? So there are few things that needs to be considered with respect to decentralization. First is there has to be clear assignment of functions, and the assignments have to be based on comparative advantage. Now, as we were discussing some time back, there are different levels of government, right? Union government, state governments, and then you have the local governments. Each level of government has its own strengths, so as to say. They have their own comparative advantage. So ideally, the functions should be assigned based on comparative advantage. We have the constitution. The constitution has lists, union list, state list, concurrent list, and it divides the functions accordingly. When it comes to urban local bodies, PRIs, we do have some functions. But again, constitutionally, it is not mandated. It is the state governments who decide how they are going to give these functions to different local bodies. Now, this comparative advantage bit becomes important. There are certain things which the union governments are quite good at doing. For instance, let's say monetary policy or exchange rates or maybe the defense functions. All these things, if you are leaving it to the state governments or the urban local bodies or PRIs, just think of how complex it will be. Like everyone is having their own monetary policy now. So some of these things the union governments is good at doing. Now, when it comes to state governments, building social infrastructure is usually the priority. Health, education, all these functions are typically given to the state governments. Similarly, there are other activities. For instance, let's say the road in my locality. I stay there. I know what are the concerns over there, what needs to be done. The urban local body knows better, right? What is the requirement with respect to these things, where the holes are, where there are potholes. I think sometime back Vishnu was talking about it. So they are at a better position to provide for these kind of infrastructure as compared to the union government maybe. So ideally, the functions should be on the basis of comparative advantage. Next thing, there is a possibility that these assignments can overlap. So the point is, we have to ensure that, or you should have systems and institutions to ensure that you don't have these overlap. There are ways by which there can be bargaining. For instance, there might be something which the state government also has jurisdiction over, the municipalities also have jurisdiction over. There will be conflict. Again, it will lead to suboptimal outcomes. So you need to figure out ways by which these overlap should not happen. Third thing is, finance should follow functions, not the other way around. If a function is assigned, if a responsibility is assigned, to a level of government, they should also have the finance. They should also have the ability to generate enough finances to provide for those functions. If if there is massive amount of responsibilities, but you don't have enough resources to carry out those responsibilities, you will obviously perform subpar. So there should be a linkage. There should be the finance should follow functions. Now, when it comes to urban local bodies, right, there are different kinds of functions assigned. Many of these functions will not have any source of revenue. Right, prevention of cruelty against animals, urban poverty alleviation. These are different kind of functions that urban local bodies are supposed to perform, but you might not have sources of revenue for all those things. So, government should have productive tax sources, or else things will fail. Next thing, local services services which are provided locally should be paid for locally. If I need some services in my locality, yeah, I should pay for it. And again, the local authorities can provide for it. But there can be instances where you will have spillover effects. For instance, a road connecting, let's say, Bangalore to Mysore, right? There will be spillover effects. Other jurisdictions will also get impacted, will get benefited. There are positive externalities. So in those cases, again, maybe the state governments or other jurisdictions should contribute. And the last part, intergovernmental transfers are something which are unavoidable. Because again, the first principle that we talked about, comparative advantage. So the union government has comparative advantage when it comes to raising resources. All the broad-based taxes are with the union government, the income tax, taxes for corporations, while the state governments have the responsibility for spending on health, education. State governments typically spend or they bear larger part of the spending burden, while the union government has larger resources. Right, so you have to figure out ways by which resources can be transferred from one level of government to another. So intergovernmental finance it is something which you cannot avoid. But the point is, you have to find out ways by which perverse incentives are not there. It should not be the case that a level of government, it knows that they will get resources from other levels of government. So yeah, they will not really care about their balance sheets. They will just go on spending because someone else is going to bail them out. That should not be the case. So this is again another principle that should ideally be followed when it comes to fiscal decentralization. Now, let's see what are the current challenges with municipal finances and specifically BBMP. Now, first thing, when it comes to non-tax revenue, user charges, fees, there is massive scope to leverage it further. For instance, I showed you one list, right, where property tax contributes maximum, and there were a bunch of things. And on that particular bar chart, you will not see parking fees anywhere. It's missing. And parking fees is something which is leveraged in many jurisdictions. In fact, recently in Bangalore also, we are trying to do that, but there is massive scope to use it. In fact, there was one study which pointed out that around 500 crores per year can be generated using parking in Bangalore. And again, if Bangalore's total budget is around 12,000 crores, 500 crores is a huge amount. Apart from that, many of the user fee generating functions with the state governments are with the state governments. So the urban local bodies cannot raise revenue on those things. For instance, water, electricity, all those things are with some parastatal bodies, and the urban local governments cannot charge for these kind of services. We saw that property tax is something which contributes massively to Bangalore's revenues. But there are multiple studies which point out that there is still some more scope to leverage it. For instance, Economic Survey 2617, they did a detailed study, and they're saying that if you are improving the collection efficiency, then 4 to 5 times whatever property tax that you have collected can increase. The State Finance Commission report, Fourth State Finance Commission report also talked about it. The Fourth State Finance Commission report also mentioned that at this point, there are different kinds of exemptions. We need to review that. Charitable institutions, educational institutions, maybe think about reviewing some of these things. Also, maybe revise the rates, right? So rates have not been changed for some time now. The State Finance Commission report also pointed out that there are many properties which are yet to be surveyed, from which also you can get the property tax. But yeah, I'm giving a disclaimer here. Bangalore is still one of those, BBMP is still one of those municipal bodies which has done well when it comes to property tax. But that does not mean we do not have scope for improvement. These are some of the findings of different committees in recent times. The next thing is about overlapping assignments. As I was mentioning some time back, sometimes you have multiple bodies, overlap can be there, and it impacts finances, it impacts the ability of the bodies to perform their duties. For instance, BDA, Bangalore Metropolitan Rural Development Authority, multiple bodies are there. So again, what all falls under their jurisdiction, what doesn't fall under their jurisdiction, there can be these kind of confusions and leads to ambiguity. So there needs to be clarity. Who is doing what, who is responsible for what, and who's not responsible for what. And something which Mr. Raja Chelya had talked about, everyone wants decentralization, but only up to their own level. The states will say, we need decentralization, the union should give us funds. But when it comes to giving funds to the local bodies, the states will not be following the same principle, right? So this also needs to be considered. Now, I mentioned something, finance should follow functions, but at present, that is not what happens. The states, again, there is a state list, there is a union list, concurrent list. So it is well defined. What are the things that the states can work on? What are those things the states can generate their revenue from? Right? So they have that constitutional right. But when it comes to the urban local bodies, again, it is dependent on the state governments. The state governments decide what are the taxes the urban local bodies can generate. So massive dependence on state governments is there. And the problem here is we have what is called as the weak Vixelian connection. The Vixelian connection basically tells you that there has to be overlap between these three entities. The entities who decide, the entities who benefit, the entities who pay. Let's say I want well-functioning roads, roads without potholes in my locality, right? So I am the one who is paying for it. I am the one, people in my locality are benefiting from it. And but generally what will happen, who is going to decide that? Not necessarily the urban local body, maybe the maybe some other body which does not necessarily represent my interests. So if that is the case, it is weak Vixelian connection, and again you will have suboptimal outcomes. Maybe if the state government is deciding all these things. So again, the state government is elected by people who are from different parts of the state, maybe from urban areas, maybe from rural areas, and they might not necessarily relate to this. So we typically have weak Vixelian connection. It needs to be made stronger. This overlap needs to be there. And with GST, the states have again been impacted even more. Some of the taxes, for instance, advertisement tax and all those things were subsumed. So because of GST, the states also got impacted, but they were compensated. Some compensation cess and all those things was there, but for urban local bodies, that was not the case. There have been some commentators, for instance, Mr. Vijay Kelkar, 14th Finance Commission. He was recently recommending that union government and the state government should share a part of the GST with the urban local bodies because of the losses the urban local bodies have been through. And the last part of the challenge here, the borrowing route is something which is underexploited, right? If the union government, state governments, they typically spend more as compared to the revenue sources. They will have fiscal deficit. And how do they manage it? They will manage it through borrowings. But when it comes to urban local bodies, this route is underexploited. Yes, you might, there are municipal bonds and all those things, but there also you have, you have not been able to leverage it as expected. Now, if you are not able to borrow, it has an implication, especially on capital expenditure, especially on infrastructure thing, because you will require massive funds for infrastructure maybe, and you will need to borrow this money, and you will repay it over time. But if borrowing is not happening, you cannot invest in these kind of things, and as a result of which the infrastructure of cities will remain what it is. Now, what could be the reason why this has not taken up as expected. I mean, I'm giving you a statistics. In India, urban local bodies borrow around 0.05% of the GDP, which is like abysmal. Now, what could be the reason it has not caught up as much? Again, accounting practices are not good. It's very difficult to figure out the BBMP or any other municipal body's current state of finances. Also, there has to be some trust that, okay, this particular urban local body has taken money, will be able to return it. So they should have some economically sustainable plan, right? They should have some source of user fees so that they can pay it back. So if you are taking money for some, let's say, a road project or something, right? So if you are charging users, there is a consistent revenue stream, and with that, it can be repaid, right? So many times, since you don't charge user fees, this economic sustainability thing comes into the question, and again, getting money might be difficult. So these are some challenges that we see with urban local bodies. So what are some solutions? The urban local bodies should reduce their dependence on the union and the state governments. One way to do it is augment your own revenue streams, right? And as we saw, there are some sources which you can definitely leverage, property tax and all those things. And wherever it is possible, charge, right? Charge fees. And again, if you are underpricing something, it is going to lead to overconsumption and a bunch of other things. So wherever there is a possibility of charging, do that. State finance commissions do play a significant role. And as I was mentioning, many places in India, many states in India, they have not formed state finances consistently. In fact, I'll share a image where, I have one image where they show different states. Like in some states, it will be still the third state finance commission, that kind of thing. So you need to have state finance commissions regularly formed every 5 years, but that is just part of it. Many of the state finance commissions, they take more time to come up with the reports. The report is again not tabled on time. There are delays. The action taken report, again, that is also delayed. And most importantly, the way state finances operate and the way union finances operate, it's completely different, or at least in terms of expertise. Generally, the Union Finance Commission has experts. Many of the state finance commissions do not necessarily have the right kind of expertise. So that also needs to be thought about. BBMP owns different kind of property. So there is a scope for renting out this property, revising the rents from time to time. That can also help you augment your revenue resources. And the last part, make the different kinds of rules, regulations that are there for business. Try to make it simpler. Now, the point is, the underlying assumption here is, if you make these rules, regulations simpler, the advantage is you will have more economic activity. If you're having more economic activity, you now can have different sources to generate revenue from them, right? You can have fees, you can have taxes, which again is going to benefit the city. So these are few things that can be thought about. Again, broader ideas, but has been consistently on the list for some time now. So with this, I'll wrap up my thoughts on municipal finances, fundamentals of municipal finance. And yeah, if you have any questions, we can do that, or we can take the questions at the end after all the panelists have talked about.
Thank you so much, Sarthak. I had one question, so let me start off with that, and then I'll go to the other panelists. And meanwhile, while I ask my question, any of the attendees, if you have any questions, please share that as well. If based on how the discussion is going, I will take that. So if we can go back up to your slide on the sources of the budget, which you pulled out from 2023. In fact, one slide before that. I was just wondering, among this breakup, you spoke about tied and untied grants, and out of the state, of course, I understand that own revenue is mostly comes with our own discretion on how we want to spend it. But in terms of this GOK, capital works grants, and the revenue grants, would you know how much of it is tied and untied? And even if tied, I was wondering what level of tied is it? Do they tell you this fund is for this road, or do they tell you this fund is for these types of roads? You decide where the necessity is and you can implement it.
Yeah. So again, this entire capital work grant, it's for infrastructure development. And the revenue grants that you see, a part of it will be specified. This is untied grants. And again, when it is tied grants, they don't specify exactly that, oh, this is the road that you have to construct. Again, it is at a broader level that this is for these kind of infrastructure, or this is for power infrastructure, or this is for paying the salaries to your officials, right? But yeah, I mean that the ratio will be quite low, all around. So let's say if the total revenue grant, I think around 20% of that will be untied. But yeah, it keeps on changing from time to time. But not, I don't think it will be more than 20%.
Sounds good. Thanks for the presentation. Not only sharing the issues, but also solutions. So it was very insightful and crisp. And yeah, once again, the audience can share their questions. I think Sarthak is a bit under the weather. He'll try to stay with us for as long as he can, but we can do one round of questions if you all share it on chat. But coming to Subbu sir and Vishnu,
Just before that, Rishi, thank you. Thanks for this summarizing it. Just should I stop sharing my slides? Because that way the other speakers can be on the spotlight, no?
You can stop
Yeah.
sharing it. In case any of the questions need you to call back the slides, we can do
I can
that.
do that. Yeah.
But coming back to Subbu sir, I think Sarthak has given us a great view and a summary of the issues. I think we couldn't have put it better in terms of giving us an understanding of what does municipal finance entail, what are the issues. But you all have been practitioners on the ground. Subbu sir has been dealing through his role as an RWA member and party member working for causes. And same for Vishnu, who's been very active on the ground, taking problems up, trying to get the funds to get them solved. So we saw it from top down, but from bottom up, which of these challenges mentioned by Sarthak have you experienced and seen firsthand from the ground? How many of them are similar? And is there anything different that you have encountered? So we'll start with Subbu sir and then go to Vishnu.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, thank you, Sarthak. You know, the points you have made are very useful to the many of the people who are attending this, because they are going to be the future corporators who will run the BBMP whenever it happens. Because we have been waiting for the BBMP elections for the last 2.5 years. And for that, we have kept ready a large number of ward level leaders to take the role of the corporator. And certainly your points will help. Coming to the Bengaluru Navnirmana party stand and our experience in dealing with the BBMP finances, particularly at ward level, I would put 3 points. First of all, the citizen participation. The BNP has been insisting for citizen participation, not only at ward level, even at the next level of area sabhas, because the decentralization is the key, which was recognized by the 74th Amendment also. And that 74th Amendment of the Constitution said the governance at the local bodies should be start at the lowest level, which is area sabhas, then the ward sabhas and ward level management, and then city level. In this, there are 2 things when you say citizen participation. One is, yes, the system should enable the citizens to participate. That is one thing, which means starting from making a budget for the ward. It should not be the corporator or, in the absence of corporator, the municipal officer who decides what money to be spent on which project and all that. It should come from the citizens' requirements. That is one part. But at the same time, I have to point out that especially in Bangalore, we have seen the citizen participation in BBMP elections is low, particularly from the educated class. If you look at the election voting percentages in last many BBMP elections, it is just about 40 to 45%, unlike state government, which is about 60 to 65%, also in the national level. So there is also a need for citizens to participate in the governance. And towards this, the BNP has done extensive work, like going to each group housing RWA to first make sure that they have the voter ID, and then promoting participation in the election when the election come and things like this. So citizen participation has two what you call sides of the coin, and which both should be focused on, and BNP is doing that. And of course, the system providing the facility to participate in the governance will not happen till the elections are held and the ward committees start functioning. Ward committees have stopped functioning in the last 2 years, even though they started in a good note thanks to the initiative of the earlier BBMP commissioner. Second part is the what you call transparency in the business of BBMP. Not only in what you call spending, but also running a good accounting system where the budgets clearly should say how the revenues will come and how that revenue will be spent during that budget year, and how it can be monitored, not just by the government officers, but also by the citizens, the participating citizens of the ward or the areas of us. This, in fact, PNP has tried to do it by some kind of a deep dive. 3 years back, we went to the BBMP website and dug out the information to find out how in different wards the money is getting spent on various projects, and we found a large number of anomalies. So then we requested the BBMP commissioner that you should put this out in the public domain so that the citizens can see what is happening in that in their area or in their ward, and they should know that what projects are undertaken in that and how the money is being spent, and they should have the facility to point out if there are anomalies happening. BBMP did not react. Then the BNP opened a page in our website, and where we already copied the BBMP data from their website and put them there and made it public. And that forced the BBMP to provide the same facility in the BBMP portal. This is one example how the transparency in accounting of BBMP has to be, it can be enforced with public pressure, but ideally it should come from the what you call BBMP or the state government influence. Third part is the, I would say, accountability. Now, at corporate level, when the officers decide to spend something, and if money has been spent, they should show how the money has been spent. In fact, we have found a lot of anomalies where money has been earmarked for a particular purpose, but it has been spent elsewhere. This accountability is totally missing today. And there was some accountability when the BBMP council was functioning, when there were corporators. The citizens could question that corporator. Now that facility is gone. And at the officers level, there is nobody whom we can question and say, tell us, in my area, which road has been taken up for road asphalting, and has it been done as per the standard? Because the citizens should be able to understand how asphalting is done, what is the standard, whether it should be 1 inch or 2-inch thickness asphalting, and if the work is completed, they should be able to check and see if there is really 1 inch or 2-inch thickness, or just it will so thin that it will wear off in one season. So this accountability is something which is missing today, and the BNP has done a lot to enforce this accountability.
Yep.
And these are the fundamental pillars of good governance in the civic bodies. And fortunately, we walk the talk, and many of our corporate candidates have the actual experience of doing all these things, the participation and, the holding the bureaucracy responsible, accountability, and also transparency. I think Vishnu would have many examples to show it also.
Yeah.
So I end my talk here, but of course I'm open to questions as far as the BNP practice is concerned.
Sounds good. Thank you, Subbu sir. Of course, while we are talking from a Bengaluru perspective, because that is where we are based on and our knowledge is rooted from here, municipal finance, of course, a broader issue in the country. And I'm sure that a lot of the challenges that we are facing are being faced everywhere else as well. And we do have an audience who are from different cities. Great points mentioned by you on the need for transparency of finances. That is one angle, and then involvement of citizens the other. One of the things that you mentioned that maybe we can go into further is also the impact of regularity of elections and the seriousness given to municipal finance. So maybe that is something that we can discuss. But now that we have got the academic perspective, we have got BNP's perspective, Vishnu talking more about just specific instances or issues, drawing from your experiences. Can you shed light, as I said, not so much about maybe the specific case of BNP or Bengaluru, we've heard that, about the issues raised by Sarthak. How many of them do you face in your interaction at the civic level when it comes to municipal finances? And are there any newer issues that you have faced?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rishi, for that. First and foremost, Sarthak, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. There are very few times in a webinar where I sit down and take notes. So I think this is one of them. So genuinely do appreciate that. That's something that we wanted to know and we wanted to kind of understand as well, right? From in general on the ground perspective, right? I am the guy on the ground. I am the guy that is building the party on the ground, is having these conversations in terms of what is to be done, where are we currently at, and how do we kind of bridge that gap of, I think Subbu spoke about a lot more about accountability and transparency, right? So how do we build that into the system, something that I've been trying to solve as well. So here is a particular thing, right? In my and I work closely with the BBMP officials for a lot of things, a lot of civic issues that we deal with. Basically, civic issues are two types, right? One is maintenance issues, and the other is new, let's say, laying a new road where you need to procure new materials, right? Guess what is the single sentence that we hear for almost every single issue that we raise? There is one sentence. Sorry?
Budgetilla.
Budgetilla. Exactly. Thank you so much for that. So this thing called duddilla, or duddilla in Kannada is we don't have money. Now budget illa is the single most frequented sentence, irrespective of what you raise in any kind of what committee meeting ever. Right? Whatever you ask, it doesn't matter. So there is a garbage that has not been cleaned for some time. Illa sir, budget illa. We don't have budget for that, sir. Right? And that sly smile comes from this thing, right? So thank you so much, Sarthak, for we know that for a fact that there is money. It's just that we don't know where it comes from and how it is budgeted, right? So yours, I think, gave us this thing. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Now coming to I think you, Sarthak, have presented quite a few solutions in terms of how do we ensure that this budget and the budgeting comes in a right flow, right? What we usually face on the ground is obviously the allocation of budget and the funds to the right projects, right? Now, one of my experience has been the fact that the closer you are to a power center, the faster or let's say a lot of priority of projects kind of tilt that way. Right, the closer you are to a larger power center, it tilts your way even it bends your way even further, right? But here is a misconception that I'd like to point out first and foremost, right? A lot of people that I speak to on the ground, I've spoken to about, I think, 10,000 plus people in my ward, right? I've been on the ground every single day, meeting people, trying to understand them. Right? There's one misconception that I want to put across today, taking this forum as this thing, right? Anybody I meet tells me that, okay, fine, you're trying to contest as a corporator candidate, fine and well, good for you, all the best. But here is the thing. I don't think you can make any difference because the entire of the budget is in the MLA's hands. MLA's hands or in the MP's hands, or there is nothing you can do and stuff like that, right? I'd like to actually talk on this. That's absolutely not true. That is 100% not true, right? If you look at this, so the BBMP takes care of the municipal governance of Bangalore, right? It is the BBMP governs Bangalore from something called as a BBMP Act. The BBMP Act is there. It's 2020 is the latest BBMP Act proposal that we have. If you take the document, if you do a simple search in the document, simple Control F, and try and figure out if there is a word called MLA or a member of Legislative Assembly in the entire act, you won't find a single reference to an MLA in that act, right? Or a member of parliament. So I'd like to just let you all know that an MLA or an MP has nothing to do absolutely with your municipal, at a municipal level, they don't have anything whatsoever, right? It's only and only a corporator can get your municipal issues resolved. An MLA or an MP can't get a road laid for you, can't get a drain cleared for you, can't get a street light fixed for you, can't get your lake that is fraught, or can't put a walkway around your lake. None of that. A corporator is the guy who's actually will solve your issues, right? That's the first point that I'd like to just put across. Now, from a like I said previously, right? The one issue that we always hear is we don't have money. There's nothing that we can do, right? I just for a and this after a point of time as an activist, it's really frustrating, right? You ask them once, twice, 10 times, they'll tell you saying there's no this thing. So just to give you an idea, do you all know how much it takes to fill a pothole of 2 feet into 2 feet a square? Let's say it's 2 feet wide and 2 feet length. How much money do you think it costs to fill a pothole that is 2 feet into 2 feet? You can take a wild guess and go crazy with your imagination.
10,000 rupees.
Wonderful. Okay, 10,000 rupees is a lot of money. Yeah, 10,000. Sure. So I'll just tell you what it is. It costs you about 2,300 rupees.
Oh.
It costs you 2,300 rupees to fill a pothole of 2 feet into 2 feet this thing, right? And I've been that guy who's trying to fill potholes, and I've got an answer back saying it's money. There's no money in the system, right? 2,000. If the BBMP in my ward especially does not have 2,300 rupees, or let's say 4,000 or 5,000 rupees to fill a pothole, then I don't think that this system should exist at all, right? And
when they actually carry out the filling of the pothole, the contractor will submit a bill for 10,000, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's 16,700, Subbu. But yeah, something there, right? But that's the issue that we face on the ground, right? And that's the reality of it, right? And sometimes it gets really, really frustrating when you try and solve civic issue, and this is the thing that is happening, right? So we at BNP, I think Sarthak has put across some wonderful solutions in his deck. From our perspective, I just want to, I think Subbu has also mentioned that, saying that citizen participation, right? I want to quickly kind of see now how do we kind of ensure that conversations like these don't happen, right? Where you're looking at a pothole that will take you, by the way, I have the bill also where I was the one who got the pothole filled on Outer Ring Road for a bill of 2,300. And the best part, he gave me a warranty of 2 years, right? Previously unseen in the BBMP ever, right? So now coming back to the thing. So what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to take this citizen participation to the next level. So one of the things that we've been trying to do, where we understand how finances are actually done on the ground, are actually given to the ward, we're trying to take that into a slightly larger and a more participated level. So we are the only political party in this country that is advocating for area sabhas. Right? We are the only political party in this country that wants area sabhas formed. We are the only political party in this country that wants area sabha members, taking Subbu's point of citizen participation, to come and be a part of the system. Right? Currently, for the last three and a half years, we have not had a corporator, which is actually unconstitutional, right? But that's how it is. What we want to do is we've gone about actually 4.5 years. We've gone about creating something called area sabhas across every single ward in Bangalore. Essentially, area sabha is a ward is divided into 10 area sabhas, so that's approximately 5,000 people per an area sabha. What we are trying to do is that we get one area sabha member from every single area sabha. So there are 10 area sabha members. It's constitutionally mandated that you need to have an area sabha member. But here is the twist. There is not a single area sabha member that has been nominated in any of the wards in Bangalore. And to tell you one more thing, there is a ward that I take care of where one of the area sabha member actually resides in London and has not come to the meeting since the start of the entirety, right? So that's the apathy that we're dealing with. So we want to remove that completely. We want to get good people into the system and ensure that we collate issues better. Now, once when we get to know, I think Sarthak has mentioned about the budget that is there, right? Once when we get to know how much budget is allotted to the ward. For example, 2 days ago, 75 lakhs were allotted to the ward, every single ward across all the BBMP wards. Right? What we want to do is we want to take the citizen participation to the next level. We have an area sabha member for every single area sabha of all the wards that we are currently working in Bangalore. Right? What the area sabha member does is the area sabha member collates all the issues that their residents are facing. They bring it to it's supposed to happen this way. They bring it to the corporator. They present it to the corporator saying, here are my issues. please resolve these issues. How much budget has been allocated for these issues? How do we go about resolving that, right? So we completely dismantle the entire power structure that is supposed to be present in these meetings, right? The closer you are to the source of power, the faster you get your issues resolved. We're completely dismantling that. We are democratizing decision making at a municipal perspective with area sabha members. It's been very, very good for us so far. In fact, we had about 150 issues raised on the BNP platforms. We've been able to resolve close to around 70% of them, right? We are still not happy with that percentage, but it's still a great start, right? So we want to work more on this. I think now that we've got a great idea into how it functions, right? So decentralizing of decision making and ensuring that hyper local governance works to the level it should work about by ensuring that the decision making is actually decentralized. It's working wonders for us. In fact, we actually work as shadow corporators. It doesn't matter if you're in power or not. I look at it as like, I am the corporator. How do I take care of my ward, right? Trying to understand what issues we resolve. So that's what we've been trying to do. I just want to put that across to try and give a larger perspective of what's actually happening on the ground. There's always money. There's always money in the banana stand. Right? There's always money. You always have it. But it's just that you need the right person and the right corporator and the right a person in the system who's willing to put their foot down and say, let's do it this way and let's do it the right way. Accountability, transparency is what gets us there. And we'll keep working towards that. And obviously, more conversations around these will really help. So yeah, that's our experience on the ground. There are more things that we face on a daily basis, right? But these are just some of those that I wanted to share. Yeah, so that's it from my end.
So Vishnu just wanted to add something to this, the thing that you mentioned, right? That people expect the MLA, people think that MLAs and MPs will be involved in this. I remember 2019 elections. I remember some of these candidates, right, who are standing for elections, they will come to all these build societies and they will promise them, oh, we will get the pothole repaired or the roads repaired, and the people will also be demand. I don't blame the candidates as well, because the people will be demanding that. So there is somewhere people don't understand what an MP is supposed to do, what a MLA is supposed to do. In fact, they're not even supposed to get these things done. They're supposed to ask questions and what is...
Absolutely. In fact, that's something that I face constantly, Sarthak. That's what I try and talk to people as well, right? They think that a corporator reports to an MLA. But does the MLA report to the MP? That's not the case, right? There are independent bodies, independent autonomous bodies that take decisions that run their own, like you said, right? Governments, so to say, right? So that's one thing that we also struggle. And it's not just the MLAs, the MPs also when they come, right? I think, I don't want to get the name, one kind MP from this thing, he's been going around, and I was there at that point of time, and then somebody came up and asked him saying, sir, what happened to the garbage picking up in my area? I have nothing. And he was like, please ask me about the defense budget in the country, I'll tell you. What do I have to do about the garbage, right? But yeah, that's the closest you are. I think people actually care about their municipal issues more than anything else. So I just wanted to put that across. We'll keep working more. We'll keep educating people that municipal governance as urban dwellers is the single most important thing for us. And that's the point that I wanted to make. Yeah, over to you, Rishi, and happy to take more questions if anybody's.
Yeah, sounds good. I think your passion is also clear, and the issues from the ground are also represented very well, which again, to underline, I'm sure will be relevant to all parts of the country, all municipal corporations. There'll be a similar experience, and the ideas that you have shared that, we are implementing something that they can take on. One common theme with all of your, inputs on the subject is that, while we are talking about municipal finances, we can't talk about just municipal finances. That is my takeaway, because there are so many interlinked things, and one of the interlinked things that you all touched about, especially Subbu sir and Vishnu, maybe I can package that as a question and throw it over to Sarthak to see what he feels. How much do you think regularity of municipal elections in cities in the first place is crucial to giving them that financial power or independence? The reason I ask is that some of my thesis was also on this. So I recently wrote a piece where I actually collected some primary data from 250 municipal corporations across the country. And I found that in the last 30 years, from whatever data was available, since the 74th Amendment Act was passed in came into force in about 1994. Since then, about 58.3% of municipal corporation elections were delayed for some point, for some period or the other. Some were short, some were long, but this shows that more than half the municipal corporation elections don't happen on time. If we look at the further levels, town councils, panchayats, municipalities, probably the same stats will come up. Probably it'll be better, probably it'll be worse, but it is going to paint the same picture that local elections are not regular. Do you think, part A of my question is, do you think that even if these elections were regular, maybe they came under the Central Election Commission, maybe they were not delayed, even if that was the case, would the devolution of funds be an issue? So that's part A. Part B is, with a lot of the buzz in today's headlines, that there is a Kovind appointed committee looking at one nation, one election, possible that some laws may be brought in. Do you think merging those elections together, how is that good for municipal finances? Is that good for municipal governances or not? So Sarthak, your views on these two questions, and maybe we can hear from the others as well. And I also see that we're going towards the end of this session. So last call for, if anyone has any pointers, questions, please put it on chat as we discuss maybe the last few themes. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Rishi, for these two questions. Now, the first thing, do you think having regular elections will solve it? I mean, maybe to some extent, but I don't think that's the most important thing. In fact, I don't remember who said this, but 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act seem to have some birth defect. I mean, the point here is, you should, you are giving them some responsibilities, but at the same time, you should provide them resources, or you should give them the capacity to generate resources, right? If that is not there, even if you have regular elections, it might not change things drastically. In fact, if you look at it, if the local bodies, right, urban local bodies have the capacity to generate resources, then they can have a great, maybe they will be able to spend better. Maybe the interest in these bodies will be even more. Maybe elections will become more significant
and it become tougher perhaps for the state governments to push these elections if
yes, exactly, because people will demand, people realize that it is important, right? So I think we need to first figure out, or the solution should be that, right? How do you ensure that the urban local bodies are more independent when it comes to their resources? The dependence on the union and the states should gradually decrease. And the second question, when you're saying that, oh, we should club all these things together, just think of the problem. In fact, just now Vishnu was talking about how people confuse between a corporator and an MLA and an MP, right? And how they confuse between the issues. They assume that the MP will be helping them fix the road issues, right? If you are having elections together, imagine most of these issues might get even diluted further. So when you have separate elections, at least there is still scope for you to talk about various issues. I mean, I see there is a risk if you club, maybe efficiency wise it will be better, but for the urban local bodies, I'm not sure. And anyway, there is right now also people don't recognize the difference.
I have one point on this, Rishi. As Vishnu pointed out, the quality of corporators matter when it comes to governance. Now, we have seen from the past several years, the corporators are typically uneducated and handpicked by the local politicians like MLAs and ministers to do their job. And once one term of the corporate husband expires, gets over, his wife or vice versa becomes the corporator. This is how it has been running, and the quality of corporators is key, and that's where BNP is trying to make a difference by selecting the corporator candidates educated and also to some extent are aware of the social problems and who can contribute if they are elected to the council. I'm sure if 50% of the council members are people like Vishnu or Lalitamba, then the governance will change. There'll be more independence, and also it's possible to collect more revenue by the BBMP on its own, because one study has shown just by collecting the property tax efficiently, it can generate 10,000 crores, and no revenue grant from either state government or central government is required, and BBMP can manage on its own. So that is one point I think very important, going forward.
Yeah, and Vishnu, you have any views on how clubbing of elections, already the narratives are a bit confusing on the ground. I must give some context just to play devil's advocate and represent the other side. There have been cases where we have seen, for example, in Orissa, there was a time when the union government elections and the state elections happened at the same time, and people literally arrived on the same day at the same time, entered room A, pressed the ballot for the state election, got out, entered room B, pressed the ballot for the union election, and in the union election they voted for BJP, and in the state election they voted for BJD. Of course, there may be other reasons that make it easier. Maybe Orissa is unique in some way, and all of the caveats are there. But it raises the question that, yeah, maybe can voters be discerning? Similar thing we saw in Delhi, where elections didn't happen at the same time, but they overwhelmingly voted for AAP, some 67 out of 70 votes, and then they overwhelmingly went and voted for BJP just a few months later in the union election. So the question is, are we taking away credit from some of our voters? What if, just to extend this, if there is an election this year and an election next year and an election next year, so state government election this year, union election next year, BBMP election next year, every year the same parties can come out and say the same things, show you their party symbol, show you Modi's face or Rahul Gandhi's face or Kejriwal's face, and ask for your vote, and you will be fooled. But whereas on the same day, if you have to come and press the button thrice, maybe you'll question yourself, why am I pressing it 3 times? What is this time for? What is the next time for? What is that? Of course, that is being hopeful, but just playing the devil's advocate as well. Anyway, Vishnu, your views on elections and municipal finance in general, and also the potential move. Since it's in the news, we might as well discuss it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I've not actually thought of the angle that Sarthak had mentioned till now, which is, if how do the issues get diluted, right? But here is what I can tell you, being on the ground, and lack of a better word, look, I've met people from the entire pipe, right? From the daily wage workers to the CXOs, right? Here is what I've learned again and again, Sarthak, and maybe you will have another thing of this, right? The Indian voter is not dumb. The Indian voter is lazy, but he's not dumb, right? And this, in fact, I should tell one more thing, right? The lack of a better word, the slum dwellers that I had spoken to, I saw had fairly more intelligence in terms of assessing people than anybody else, or assessing people or an ideology than I felt the urban voters have ever had, right? That's my take on it. And I have considerable data points that I've met across that I can put this across, right? But I think that you do have a point in the sense that it can kind of dilute the entire thing. But more than that, I'd like to add one small point there, as just to give you some numbers, right? The MP election had happened in 2019 and Rishi, not just Orissa, there are many instances. For example, my home state of Andhra Pradesh had the same thing, where they voted for BJP. When central government was going on, we had a state government that got elected with an 80% majority, right? So there are many instances of that, right? But I think there's this one point I'd like to add to that, to the entire conversation, so to say, is that in Karnataka, if you look at it, the percentage of people who come out and vote in the MP elections is about 47%, 48%, approximately there, right? In the 2023 MLA elections, let's look at Bangalore, because we kind of put this in Bangalore perspective. I'm sorry to the other guys who said, hopefully, you'll be able to correlate that. But from a Bangalore perspective, 48% is the turnout for the MP elections, right? For the MLA elections, somewhere around 42 to 43%. Again, it depends on constituencies, but that's the thing, right? In the BBMP elections, it falls down to a partly 32 to 34%. Right? This is the absolute reality. So when I've had this conversation with multiple people, right? I've asked them saying, guys, you went out in hordes and you voted in the MP elections. You went out in hordes and you voted in the MLA elections. What happened in the BBMP elections, in the municipal elections, that you didn't come out and vote? The answer overwhelmingly was that, sir, I didn't even know that a BBMP election existed. first and foremost thing, right? This was the biggest thing. The second thing was that I knew that there was an election going on, but I thought it was some panchayat guys fighting over something. I didn't want to get myself in it, right? The third one was that, I don't support any of the parties there. So that was the basic thing. So to get that point in order, right? I think that yes, somewhere the message that we're trying to send will get diluted if this whole thing happens. But having said that, I think that the average urban voter is damn smart. They can figure out, and I've spoken to enough of them to tell you this, right? They'll know what you stand for. Rest assured. You can't. It's difficult to wander around and try and make your point without actually trying to make a point. That doesn't work out with the Indian voter. They're very smart. They understand, who actually works and who doesn't. The only thing is that they haven't had an option where they could actually make a difference with their vote. And rest assured, even if you pay them money, and I've seen this happen, by the way, even if the votes, so to say, the money that is spilled, right? They take the right decision for themselves, irrespective of how much money you pay. That's always been the case. I hope that intelligence remains that way it is. But that kind of that also your message that you put across to them. But yeah, I'm still. I think that we're still on the right way there. But yeah, you have a point. I think we should think through that better, Sarthak. Yeah, that's what I had to share.
The jury on that, yeah, the jury on that will be out, and we'll only
Yeah.
know.
I'm Kirti Shah.
But,
Can I come in?
Yeah.
sorry, was there a voice?
Come in, Kirti Shah. INHAF, I have a question to ask. Can I come in?
Yes, Kirtiji, I think your voice is a bit feeble, so I couldn't hear you first time around, but please go ahead. Yeah, it's better now.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, I essentially have 2-3 questions, and one of the most important one is this: that I was told by everyone that Bangalore Navnirman Party is the only one in the country which works at the municipal level. It's a city level political organization, and I think that is a tremendously interesting, kind of a phenomenon, that if you're the only party. And that is why we thought we would not have 1, 2, 3, but we are having 6 webinars with BNP. Now, I obviously have expectations. We are running this webinar series for last 3 years, and this is 108th webinar, which means we have been discussing, and I think the title of the webinar series is Rethinking City. That Indian cities, as they are, have enormous challenges, and we need to kind of deal with it. So therefore, my first question to you, and to all of you, Sarthak ji, Vishnu Saab, Subbu Saab, I want to ask this question that, and I don't believe that particular point of view is correct. If you are talking about local government at the city level, is very important that government comes into existence. And the way for that government to come to existence is to have an election. And that's people's fundamental right, which is being denied. So my first question to you is, as a party, political party, and this is the question that I'll ask Srikant as well, what are you doing? You've been saying that election has not taken place for 3.5 years or 4.5 years or whatever. What are you doing in terms of grassroots movement? You're talking about participation. You're talking about transparency. You're talking about, I think, accountability. Here is a huge question on all three. My first question is, what are you doing as a party? Have you gone to the Supreme Court? Are you fighting? Are you organizing people at the ground level? Or are you saying it's comfortable? It doesn't matter. If there is no election, we will do our work. So that's my first question. And I think it's an important question, which I think needs answer.
Can I answer that now?
Second, no, but before that,
Question,
let me come to the second one.
Yeah.
Second one is just that I'm a student of urbanizations. And I was a part of the first National Commission on Urbanization that Rajiv Gandhi set up in mid-80s. So I'm old game players and the cities and urbanization. The one thing we've proudly talk about is this, that 65% of the GDP now is being produced in this country by the urban sector. And that hopefully will rise to 75% in the next 10 years by 2035. If this is the productivity of cities, if this is the productivity of larger cities, and if you have the rural sector which has hardly anything, and if you're talking about resources being devolved, is it proper for a Delhi or Bombay, which has one of the largest municipal corporation, one of the largest budget in the city, to ask for and request kind of resources to devolve down from the top? Shouldn't the city be giving resources than asking for it? If you are the ones who are capable, your productivity is there, you have infrastructure which someone invested in it, and you essentially have been given everything that you could ask for compared to a village situation. What are you asking for, and why are you asking for? That's the second question. There are two more questions, but let me kind of get answer to my first two questions. One is, what are you doing in order to get municipal election done? It's a disgrace that a city like Bangalore does not have municipal election.
Yeah.
I don't think there's
I
any
think-
other way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think Srikanth would have been the right person to answer this because even he was in the thick of this particular topic. But I know a couple of things I would like to mention. One is we have been meeting the local state level election commissioner regularly to demand that election to the BBMP should happen. And that demand we have been constantly putting on the election commissioner. Second thing is some citizens of Bangalore have already gone to the Supreme Court demanding that the Supreme Court should direct the election commission and the state government to conduct the elections for the BBMP. And the matter is still hanging in the Supreme Court for 2-3 times. I think the Supreme Court gave the direction or the order, but the state government came up with some excuse or other why election cannot be held, because there is a delimitation exercise we are undergoing. It should be completed and things like this. And the two delimitation exercises have been carried out by the state government. Still, they are not giving the indication to the Supreme Court, yes, now it is done, we are ready. Okay, they are still trying to postpone it as long as possible. Now, third thing is we are also organizing, the webinars like this, and we have we're collaborating with other parties in this, and also the civic agencies or the activists to put the pressure in the public domain, through the social media, that election should be held as early as possible. So these are the things BNP is doing as a responsible political party. Rishi, if you want to add a couple of points, if you can.
No, sounds good. I think we touched upon this a little bit during the conversation, the discussion, that Bengaluru not having had BBMP elections for 3.5 years now is not a Bengaluru problem. It's in fact much bigger. Mumbai also did not have elections for a long time. Chennai had municipal elections, I think 1 or 2 years back, after 5 years of no corporation in power. There were a few places, I think Vizag or somewhere in Andhra Pradesh, where for 14 years municipal corporation elections were not conducted. The reason I would say is one part of it is because of the birth defect that Sarthak mentioned in the Amendment Act that's supposed to govern these elections in the first place. And now we know there's something wrong. We know that it has to be fixed, but who has to fix it? the people who don't have the incentive to do so. So the only way this can be fixed is by new legislation, which your parliamentarians have to bring in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and that will change whether cities have corporations frequently or not. But as we spoke, they are not the guys interested in decentralization in the first place. So that's just my view on it from an academic point of view. But over to Sarthak, maybe if you can talk a
Yeah.
little bit about why I mean, just
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
demand.
Yeah, the devolution part, right? So
Bombay does not have an exclusive political party working at the city level. No other city in the country has it. Bangalore is the only city, I'm told, in the country which has, and therefore your stakes, the pop stake, are very, very different compared to, I think, BJP's stake in Mumbai or someone else's stake in some other place. And that is why I'm asking this question. That is why it's a loaded question. It is a very important question. If you are the only political party, you've got to answer this question. Because you are saying, we are not interested in the state legislature. We are not interested in politics at the national level. We are interested only at the local level, which is great. I think this is a terrific phenomenon. And therefore, this question needs to be asked. And that is very fundamental. Election, if you're talking about people's right, if you're talking about a modus operandi for participation, if you're talking about vehicle for participation, municipal corporation is all that.
Shahji, unfortunately, the people who have the power, basically the established political parties, like the Bharatiya Janata Party, like the Congress, and like the JDS in Karnataka, they are all very happy with the current situation. None of them really want an independent BBMP governing council. And even when the council was there, corporators were there when they were making the budget, there was a pressure on the corporators not to go strongly on collecting the property tax as a major revenue. Don't worry, we will give you from the state government, and the corporators would listen, and deliberately the budget would show a gap in the collection of revenue, and state government grants are necessary. And this is the ploy used by the state government to exercise their power, on the BBMP. It is a kind of a unholy nexus between the state level politicians and the corporators, and this has to end. In fact, it also touches on the second question what you put: why the city cannot give instead of asking a fund. In fact, the city council did not ask for the funds when they realized that they can collect enough revenue. They were not allowed to collect enough and made dependable, so that it looks as though they have been asking. It is not the reality.
So I just want to add something to this. So I completely agree with you, Mr. Kirti, when you say that cities are the ones which contribute maximum to the revenue. But the thing is, the revenue that cities generate, right? Most of it goes to the union government. The way the way the taxes are assigned, right? Income tax, corporation tax. These are the taxes which basically are which constitute the bulk part of the revenue, right? So all these things, again, this is something which is as per the constitution, and again, it is on the basis of efficiency and all those things. So maybe Mumbai is generating massive amount of GST or income taxes, all those things, but it goes to the union government. And in fact, 65% of the total tax revenue that is generated in India, it goes to the union government. And again, then state governments, and union governments typically spend around 35% of the total expenditure that happens on us. So the rest of the expenditure is incurred by the state governments and the urban local bodies. So the union government has money, so it devolves it to the state governments, and the state governments are expected to devolve it to the local bodies. And that is the reason why BBMP or any of these bodies, they ask money from the states. And again, from union to states, that devolution is again as per the constitution. From states to the local bodies, it's again on the state laws will be there, but from states to states, it varies. So that is the reason why BBMP or Mumbai's municipal corporation has to depend on these devolution, because they can't get these money on their own.
Sarthak Saab, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is this. Where is the, your
Your voice is very feeble, Kirtiji.
Sorry.
Absolutely right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this better.
Right when you say this. My only question is this. Has Bangalore Navdevan Party produced a white paper in terms of injustice being done to cities in terms of revenue sharing? That this is a completely irrational way of doing it. That this is the rational way. As a matter of fact, Shrikant Saab always tells me that, why are we asking big questions? I'm saying, if you're only the party, if you are Sachin Tendulkar, you have responsibilities. You only can't play and get out. You've got to show how to play better cricket. So what I'm trying to say is this. If you are the only party, your responsibility are many more. And that is why we are interested. That is precisely why we are interested. Where is the white paper? No one listens to, doesn't matter. Where is an effort on part of you to having gone to Supreme Court saying election must take place? Supreme Court may take whatever view, but where political party essentially does not do anything to succeed. It has a huge amount of things to be shown that it is doing. So what I'm trying to say, that is precisely my question. When you say 0.8% of the GDP gets spent or go to the municipal corporation, where something like 35% of the people, and according to World Bank, 60% of the people are leaving, something is terribly wrong. Who is going to correct it? And what is the process of doing correction?
Yeah.
And therefore, question to you is, and that's the loaded question. You are saying we're the only one. You're saying there is no one else in the country doing it. You're saying our only interest is the municipal government, our only interest is the local government. That is why I'm asking this loaded question to you.
Yeah. So I'll let the
That's
BNP party
expectation.
members answer this
That's
question.
expectation.
Can I
Okay.
answer?
That is expectation. And I personally feel you've got to kind of build wherewithal to respond to that.
Okay,
And that
I
is
would,
precisely why we are pushing this webinars. That let them come here, we'll ask difficult questions.
yeah, I will start, but maybe Vishnu and Rishi can
Sir,
add
if
to
I
this.
may, just to also keep a check on time, and of course this is a discussion that we can have for 2 hours, on its own. Maybe I'll just ask Vishnu to share comment on this, because I think he didn't get a chance to in the previous go, and then we'll see how convincing the answer is. And if it's not convincing, then we will have that as one of the takeaways of this session. But yeah, over to you, Vishnu, to answer that.
That's a lot of pressure, but still, yeah. No, but just answering Kirtibai's question in two parts, right? First is that Kirtibai, so representatives from BNP, including myself, right? We met the deputy chief minister. We met the ex chief minister who was part of the BJP government twice. We met the deputy chief minister of the current government twice again, because both of them were the Bangalore development ministers. We've also met the chief electoral officer of Karnataka probably 5 or 6 times. I think Lalita ma'am is there on this call who can to do this, right? So we've been putting extreme pressure on the government to get the BBMP elections running, and we are hearing that now the elections will definitely happen. It's a 90% probability that they'll happen after the Lok Sabha elections. We're expecting them to happen in July, August, somewhere there, August, September, somewhere there is what we're expecting them to happen. But having said that, we'll keep putting the pressure on the guys in power. They don't want these elections to happen, sir, and that's because if there is no corporator, the decision making is taken by somebody called as the nodal officer, and the nodal officer will listen to whatever the MLA says, right? So I think Rishi had a very, very good point where he said that the people in power have no incentive to get this changed. Having said that, as a political party, we will ask for their time. We will go meet them. We will put across our pointers. We will keep putting that extra pressure on. We're fairly sure it will happen this year, but again, that's to see, right? That's one part of the question. The other part of the answer that I want to very quickly give you is that I've been an activist myself, right? This is regarding the white paper on the finances, on the BBMP finances and all that. I've been an activist myself. I fought for, like I said, I fought for removing tree branches. I fought for removing, footpath, this thing, for everything that basics, right? One of the things that I have learned, and I've learned it the hard way, is that if you're not a part of the system in India, nothing changes. You can be on the outside, you can hold a placard, you can do all this, but unless you're a part of the system in India, things do not move, right? So first and foremost, before we actually go about talking in terms of it, we want to bring about that fundamental change, and we'll work towards that. We'll work towards being a part of the system, and then we'll work. I think there's a lot of takeaways today from this discussion, right? We will work towards getting that done. But having said that, we are putting consistent pressure. Even the courts, the courts, the government officials, the whole BBMP system, every single touch point, I think we are there as BNP as a party, and we will keep putting more pressure. Hopefully, it will happen this year, but we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, and by the way, we are petitioners in the case in the Supreme
Yeah. They're actually petitioners in the Supreme Court case.
But again, just coming to, I think we can talk about this, but coming back to the municipal finance angle, which was the theme for today. Of course, a lot of these will get discussed over the next 4 webinars as well. A brilliant series, the CAT series, which is going in depth into all of these issues. But maybe if I can invite a last comment, and I want to end on this note. Of course, we have spoken about a lot of problems, a lot of issues. Of course, we have also spoken about solutions. But maybe from all of you, if I had to ask you, what is that one thing? It may be something that you've already spoken about before, or something new, but to just end on a hopeful note where if you had the power to improve one thing, change one legislation, or see one thing better, which you think would do a lot of good for municipal governance or municipal finance or whatever, which you see as the key. So what do you see as the key that holds the door to unlocking a lot of the things that are missing around municipal governance today? What would that be? So if we can end on that hopeful note, maybe Sarthak.
Yeah, so I would say the reduction on union and state finances, we should try to reduce. And how do you do it? By augmenting your own tax resources and non-tax resources. These are things in your own hand, right? The other things, union, state, it's not under your own ambit. And again, augmenting tax and non-tax revenue, you can do it, right? For instance, for different kind of services that you are paying, providing for, maybe charge fees. When it comes to taxes, we already saw that, right? Property tax and all those things. We have estimates for that. You can always leverage that. And in recent times, some of these things have also been done. So land has been the way you are using land, right? I think FSI regulations and all, accordingly, you are getting some fees. All these things helps in the city to develop as well, and you are also generating revenue. So I would say focus on things that you can definitely do. These are the low-hanging fruits. Maybe first do that, and then the other things which the folks from our political parties can do, challenging the status quo.
Sounds good. Subbu sir, Vishnu, you want to go with your concluding comment on what's the one thing you want to change?
Well, I would say, now the election commissioner is mandated to conduct the election for the country, election for the state government, and also for the local bodies. When it comes to country, they're very prompt, on time, they conduct the elections. Same thing with the state governments. Now, when it comes to the civic bodies like VBMP, they don't exercise that power. They leave the initiative to the state government, and it should not be the case. So I think there should be an amendment to the legislation if necessary, that state election commissioner has no alternative but to mandatorily conduct the election to the civic bodies when it is due. Period.
Sounds good. So we had number 1, which is mandatory, in some sense, devolution of funds. Then we had one more, which is mandatory conduct of elections. Vishnu, what is it for you?
Mine's a clarion call. Mine's the war cry. get good people into the system.
Perfect.
Get the right people into the system, give them enough sufficient power, watch the magic unfold, right? Step out and vote for the right person, get the right person sitting in the right position. You will see this turnaround, and that's inevitable. So that's all.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks to everybody for your views. I think a lot of interesting points came up. The biggest takeaways are just the importance of municipal finance, and the call to action is loud and clear. Let's think about what we can do to devolve funds. The questions are being asked. What all can we do to make sure elections are held regularly? So that is one. And the other is, what can you do to make sure that good folks are representing you at the lower level? So let's see how all of these three things can happen in the future and how it play out. Thank you so much for your time. I think this was really insightful. Over to the organizers, if anyone wants to say a word, or I think we are good to go from our end. Been a great last 2 hours.
Yeah, I think KTG had an engagement, so he had to leave. Thank you all so much from INHAF. That was a very great discussion. I think Sarthak ji was having a cold, very bad cold, and he still joined us. And we hope to continue the discussions in the next few series. I hope you will all join us for the future discussions also. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Chitrakshi. Thank you,
Thank you.
Soumya. And Rishi, your moderation was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
Have a great day ahead.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.